6 weeks to the NBA trade deadline. What do we actually know about the Orlando Magic? Like, seriously, what do we know today on Locked On Magic?
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is December 21st. It will be December 22nd, 2025. My name is Philip Rossman. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com, credentialed member of the Orlando Magic media since the 2012 season. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, what do we actually know about this team as we begin to think about the next steps, the next phases, what's coming down the pike for the Orlando Magic with the trade deadline 6 weeks away? What do we know about this team to figure out what they need? We'll talk about that, plus some early targets to ponder for the trade deadline and how the Magic continue to play the next man up as they prepare to face the Golden State Warriors. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. You can make Locked On Magic even bigger part of your day by being one of our Orlando Magic dailies. That means you're listening every day a week. That means we're part of your regular podcast rotation. It means we are your first listen of the day. We truly appreciate everyone who's made the Locked On Magic community so great. We appreciate everyone who's helped make the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. It's your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. So I asked this question, and maybe I'll put it in the comments here on YouTube. Feel free to tell me what you think you know. What do we know about this Orlando Magic team? Sitting at 16-12, playing one of the more difficult schedules in the league so far this year, at least by opponent win percentage. Entering this phase where they should be able to rack up wins. They're sitting in 6th place in the Eastern Conference. In this logjam of teams, there's like a game separating them from 3rd and the Boston Celtics. There's a lot of season left. And I made this point, I forget, Matt Moore of Locked On Nuggets and the Action Network, you kind of posed this question, like, we're like 30% of the way through the season. We're like already a third of the way through the season. You kind of are who you are. And, I made this point, and I've heard this said before, and I don't know the exact statistical measure, but it's something like 80 to 90% of the teams that eventually make the playoffs are in a playoff position by the time you get to Christmas. And it is Christmas week. Merry Christmas. End of Hanukkah here, but Merry Christmas to everybody. Last year, 19 of the 20 teams that made the postseason. So yes, I am including, that's a lot of teams. But 19 of the 20 teams that made the postseason were in a postseason spot by Christmas. Now, seedings change. There's still a lot of time for that to happen. So I'm not saying the Magic are stuck in 6th, and that's just what lot's going to be. No. I expect the Magic to finish 3rd in the East. I expect the next 4 weeks, especially, the Magic to make some major gains and to win a lot of games. Just look at their schedule. It's 12 of their next 15 games are against teams with losing records. And look, they'll lose some games. Monday against Golden State's not going to be easy. The Magic right now are really hurt and really injured. But that's why I have to ask this question as we begin to think about how this team continues to evolve and what the Magic might do at the trade deadline. You have to ask the question, who is this team? What are they good at? What are they? And look, it's going to continue to evolve. All the best teams get better as the season goes on. They get more refined. They fine-tune things and figure themselves out. It is important to note and important to remember that every year Jamal Mosley's been a coach, the team has outperformed their winning percentage after the All-Star break. So whatever their winning percentage is at the end of the season, they are better than that in the 20 games, 15 games, whatever it is, after the All-Star break. So I have every faith that the Magic are going to improve, that the Magic are going to get better and better and better and be playing their best basketball heading into the playoffs. And again, considering how talented this team is, assuming they're healthy, which maybe is not something we should assume as easily, that's going to put them in a really good spot to achieve a lot of their goals and get out of the first round. But again, we're sitting here today, the week of Christmas. Merry Christmas again. We're sitting here today trying to figure out what this team is. Because the fact of the matter is, we just haven't seen them healthy very much. Paolo Banchero strained his groin 12 games into the season. Those first 4 games were a huge mess. So already a third of his games before he got hurt are just whatever. Or like, what are they? Franz Wagner is now out with a high ankle sprain. We're not expecting him back until early to mid-January. We obviously haven't seen Mo Wagner yet, and his return is becoming more imminent. I don't think he'll be back on the 26th. But an early January return, like I've targeted January 4th against the Pacers. There's a good chance that he's coming back sooner than later. Jalen Suggs has been upgraded to doubtful on the injury reports. I don't expect him to play on this road trip. The Magic play Monday and Tuesday night. I don't expect him to play. But we are certainly moving and trending in a direction that he could be ready by Friday. It wouldn't shock me if he's playing Friday against the Hornets. It wouldn't shock me if he's playing Saturday against the Nuggets, or whatever. The Magic starting lineup has played only 11 games together in 117 minutes. The Jalen Suggs, Desmond Bane, Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, Wendell Carter lineup has a net rating of plus 18 points per 100 possessions with a 122.6 offensive rating, 104.6 defensive rating. That is elite. In fact, it is so elite among all lineups in the NBA that have played at least 100 minutes together. The Magic starting group is only third, behind the Denver Nuggets current starting lineup without Aaron Gordon and Christian Brown, and the Oklahoma City Thunder starting lineup. This is all to say, we don't know how good this Magic team is yet. They're sitting at 16-12. It feels like that record should be a little bit better, that maybe the Magic dropped some games early that they shouldn't have dropped. But A, there's an opportunity to continue stacking up wins, but B, we haven't seen this team at its best yet. When you look at their 4 factors profile, Orlando is currently 10th in the league in offensive rating at 115.6 points per 100 possessions. If I would have told you before the season the Magic would have a better offense than the Cavs, the Hawks, and the Warriors are like way down on the list. They're 22nd in offensive rating. If I would have told you the Magic would have a better offense than the Cavs, the Hawks, and the Warriors, you wouldn't really care about anything else. You would just assume wow, we fixed the offense. And yet I did a whole episode yesterday about how the offense is still a problem. The Magic's defense has slipped a little bit, but they're still 9th in the league in defense. And if you subscribe to the old Stan Van Gundy, Steve Cliffordism, to be an elite team, you got to be top 10 in both. As we sit here 28 games into the season, nearing the halfway point will come when the Magic travel from Berlin to London. But sitting here at this point in the season, the Magic are a top 10 team in both offense and defense. And we can clearly see that they have room to improve, and we expect them to improve in both. The turnaround has been a big factor of being better in transition. The Magic are one of the most efficient transition teams in the league last year after being one of the worst. They've improved their pace. They found a pace that they're comfortable playing at now. They're second in the league in defensive rebound rate, 71.7%. Bad game on Saturday on the glass, no doubt about that, but generally very good on the glass. They're 8th in offensive rebound rate. I believe they're second in fast break points per game and second in second chance points per game. Surprising, a team that was so bad with turnovers last year is 9th in the league in turnover rate at 14%. In fact, I would kind of argue the Magic statistical profile is not of a 16-12 team. The Magic statistical profile is probably a team that should be 18-10, maybe 19-9. And one thing I think we all expect to happen over the next 4 weeks, over the next month until the Magic get back from Europe, is for the Magic to begin to assert themselves in the standings, to begin to stack wins and dominate weaker teams. As much as we want to talk about the game Saturday against Utah and how the Magic didn't finish the job against the Jazz, which they didn't finish the job against the Jazz, they still built a 19-point lead and looked completely dominant for those middle two quarters. And look, they let go of the rope. They missed some shots they need to make. They let the offense stall out. They struggled to defend. There are still a lot of things to clean up. So again, what do we know about this Magic team? We know that there's still room to get better. We know that when this team is healthy, they can be one of the absolute best teams in the league. We know that that defense is in reserve, and get Franz Wagner and Jalen Suggs back in the lineup, that defense should improve. They could still play really dominant defense. Perhaps they're pacing themselves a little bit better this year on that. Perhaps injuries have sapped them a little bit. Perhaps they've just had some really bad games that they need to get over. The New York game, the first Detroit game, the first Philadelphia game, that Boston game in Boston. There's a lot to clean up. This team is not perfect, but it has made tremendous strides. It has gotten better from last season, and they are in a position to achieve their goals. Whether they do or not, it's going to come down to this next month and whether the Magic feast over the next month. Like, again, look at the schedule. I think the only three teams the Magic play with a winning record is Denver on Saturday. They'll play at Toronto 1 week from today, 1 week from Monday, on December 29th. And then they play Philadelphia in early January before they go to Europe. Now, Golden State's one game under 500 on Monday. Memphis, I believe, is 2 or 3 games under 500. Like, the records may change a little bit, but this is a stretch the Magic should win. And this is a stretch where the Magic are going to really show us who they are. And it is in this stretch where the Magic are going to have to make that big decision. Are they going to be true buyers at the trade deadline? As we look ahead to the trade deadline in 6 weeks, I've got some names to monitor, familiar names to monitor, as we think about where the Magic go and what the Magic do coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by friends over at Robinhood. Nobody knows your money goals better than you. Robinhood puts you in control of your money with tools that work as hard as you do, locking in on every opening, beating your personal record, beating it again. Channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money, trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto, all on one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself, expect more from your money. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. I want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club. Look, you listen every day. I hope you do. If not, we're going to get you to listen every day. Don't worry. Make it a habit. We're going to build those habits. We're going to build that. But you want more. And if you want more, there is now a way to do it. Whether you want access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Magic, compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. Whether you want to come into the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server to chat with me, to ask me questions, to get exclusive access to a growing community of Locked On listeners, whether it's for the NBA, for the Magic, for your favorite team. You can now do so by joining the Everydayer Club. Go to LockedOnMagic.supercast.com. Again, that's LockedOnMagic.supercast.com, or tap the link in the show notes to learn more about the Everydayer Club. We are, like I mentioned, 6 weeks away from the NBA trade deadline, and that feels like a long way away, and it is. We're going to play 20 plus more games before then. There is a long way to go and a lot of time to go before we get to the trade deadline and some of these decisions that are going to have to be made. As I mentioned, and I'm not big on the trade deadline. You know, if there's a rumor that needs to be discussed, we will discuss it. I'm not big into speculation. I'm not big into the thing I'm about to do right now, but Again, like I do this stuff to like begin like kind of thinking a little bit and thinking about the process of, okay, like this is what the Magic are thinking. How does this player fit in? Or what does an interest in this player really say? So again, I'm going to tell you focus less on the names I'm giving and more about the why. Again, whenever you see, and really, this is, I'd say this every year, and I want to just continue to stress this because I find fake trades to be silly and stupid. Um, I find the exercise to be a little silly, but it is important to go through the exercise and ask a little bit deeper question. So, whenever you see a rumor, don't worry so much about the name and the rumor or like a fake trade and how that fake trade is comes out, especially like if it's a source you trust, then go for it. Like random guy on the trade machine, don't listen to them. Like I usually tell people, like, no, that's dumb. Stop it. Sorry, I'm gonna be blunt about it. Ask the why. Why is this the thing you're going for? Why would the Magic want this? What are the Magic trying? What are the teams trying to accomplish in this proposed deal? Always ask the why. That is my big thing. And so again, I set this segment up to say like, okay, what do we know about this Magic team? And I mentioned like there's a lot of really good, like there's a really strong foundation of this team being really good. And maybe they're not championship level quite yet. And I think we can watch and say, like, oh no, like this doesn't look like a championship level team. They're doing some championship things, and there's some interesting things that they've done this year. They had 12 wins against teams with records above 500 last year. They have 8 already this season. So there is certainly a level of progress, but look, we saw what happened in the NBA Cup semifinal in Vegas. Like, team didn't look quite ready for that. There's been some moments where they look a little gun shy. As good as the offense has looked, and I think the Magic's offense is better than people give it credit for, but I also don't think it's the ninth best offense in the league. I think that there's still these, like we saw this Saturday night, these really shaky moments. And so, what are the Magic looking for? Like, if you could, and I'll put this question in the comments, but if you could add one thing to this team, one skill, forget player, we'll talk some players, but add one skill to this team, what would that skill be? Like, what would that skill be? I have two that come to mind pretty immediately. The first is this team still needs shooting. The Magic are 24th in the league at 3-point field goal percentage. They are still not making a ton of threes. They're not taking a ton of threes, which I think is good for them. But like adding Desmond Bane hasn't fixed the team's 3-point shooting. In fact, like over the last 10 games, they're shooting worse than 30% from three, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double check my stats. I don't want to talk out of pocket here. So give me a second to stall as I load up the stat page. The Magic currently are 26th in the league in 3-point shooting at 34.2%. Over their last 10 games, the Magic are shooting 32% from three. So see, I undersold them. Now the Cavs are 32.1%. You expect more from Cleveland. They're really struggling. The Pistons are 32.9%. They're 26 over their last 10 games. You can win without making threes. Orlando's 6-4, Detroit 7-3 over their last 10. Philadelphia is making only 34.3%. They're 7-3 over their last 10. You can win without making threes, but let's just put it this way. Of the top 10 teams, only 2 of the top 10 teams in 3-point shooting over their last 10 games, only 2 have losing records, and that's the Milwaukee Bucks and the Miami Heat. Everyone else is at least Utah's 5-5, Houston 6-4, a lot of 7-3s, a lot of 8-2s. The Magic need better shooting. They need more shooting. Some of that is Franz is still up and down. Some of that is Jalen Suggs is still up and down, was going through a major downturn. Tristan da Silva has really struggled with his shot over the last few weeks, and sitting out to let the shoulder heal up is certainly, I think, part of, the shoulder's gotten bad enough where it's affecting his play. And I think that's why the Magic are sitting him as much as anything. The Magic need to find shooters, but like finding the right kind of shooters. Like, they want guys that are going to make shots, but still be able to attack. I don't think they want just straight spot up shooters. Make plays, make decisions, and give them something on defense. I put together my list, and it's on OrlandoMagicDaily.com. I put together my list of 5 names just to monitor. I'm not saying go after them. I'm just saying, like, keep an eye. They're going to be on the market. We'll probably see them pop up in rumors. Then the number one guy on my list is the guys that I brought up are the same familiar players we've talked about for years. I got Malik Monk on my list. I got Colin Sexton on my list. I think that the Magic are going to be looking at those guys again if they become available on the market. Sacramento is essentially selling everybody off because it's not working. They're the worst team in the Western Conference. And if you look at Malik Monk, he's not playing as much this year. That's really the reason why his stats have gone down. But he's still providing a lot of what you hope for. 13 points per game in 24 minutes per game, shooting 41.1% on 4.7 3-point attempts per game. He's a gunner, and he's shown that he can make plays off the dribble. Now, the issue is he's not a good defender. And I don't know if the Magic want to add a smallish guard who's not a good defender. Now, if you're trading Tyus Jones for Malik Monk, and Monk makes more money, so the Magic would have to do some work. Monk is at $18.8 million. He'll be above 20 for the next 2 years. And I think that will be probably the biggest impediment, because I think the Magic's biggest goal at the trade deadline this year is to get under the luxury tax. The Magic want to cut salary. And it's only by like $5 million, so it's not like crazy. But the only way the Magic could take long-term money is if it gives them relief this year so they can not start the luxury tax clock. Like I honestly, like, everyone's going to hate me for saying this all throughout February. That's the goal. The goal is to not start the luxury tax clock. And that's why, like, maybe the guy to chase is like Colin Sexton, another guy that we talked about as a, hey, go get this guy, bring him off your bench and run back what you did last year. Just get another attacker off your bench who can spot start when Jalen Suggs is out. Like, we talked a lot about Colin Sexton before we knew Desmond Bane was available. So why not have your cake and eat it too? Sexton has been solid this year. He's averaging 15.5 points per game on 4.2 assists per game. No drop off on his production going to the Hornets. He just maybe needs to be in a better environment because he's played for, frankly, a lot of losing teams over the course of his career. I think he can still be a decent defender, but he's, got work to do. He's got some work to do. Sexton is an expiring contract. That is an important thing, but only at like $13 million. So, if you're really crazy, like, Tyus Jones and Jed Howard for Colin Sexton works mathematically and probably has you taking on less money. Now, would Charlotte do that? I don't know. Go listen to Locked On Hornets for that. Constructing a deal that works is different than getting something done. But Sexton is still a solid shooter, and still there are solid shooters out there. I saw Bleacher Report pitch Corey Kispert trade. I didn't like the trade that they pitched, because Jonathan Isaac, Jase Richardson for Corey Kispert's too much. Kispert's got a broken wrist right now, so you're not touching him until he comes back. But again, like, there are shooters out there that are available. Kispert's minutes have gone down in Washington. They're clearly going in a different direction. But again, like, is he going to defend? Is Sexton going to defend? I said this a million times about Tyus Jones before the Magic signed him. If the Magic wanted Colin Sexton or Malik Monk, they'd have him already. Now, they gave in and got Tyus Jones at last. And, I will defend Tyus more than most people will, but Tyus has been rough. And it has not been what I think everyone hoped for from him. He's not had a good season. Like even a defender like me, he's not been good. And so, to me, the Magic have two needs to address at the deadline. If they're looking to buy, if they're looking to add something to the roster, which they should be, they need shooting first and foremost. Like, adding another shooter, like, when the mercenary market opens up, the Magic do have an open roster spot still. They can't sign anyone with that roster spot until January 9th, and stay under the hard cap. I don't think the Magic will use that roster spot until after the deadline. I do think the Magic will probably try to get into the mercenary market this year and add a veteran on a minimum contract to help with their shooting. I think the Magic could also use another point guard, a more solid backup point guard. Again, I'm a big believer in Jase Richardson. I think Jase Richardson has earned some minutes. I don't know if he's ready for the playoffs. And I think, even though I think he's feisty on defense, like, you just can't have weak links defensively. And, unless you could cover for them. And I don't know if the Magic could cover for Jase Richardson quite yet. You look at his on-off numbers, and the Magic's defense is pretty bad when he's on the floor, even though he's contributing a lot on the offensive end. He makes up for it in a way that Tyus doesn't, which is why I do think Jase Richardson should be in the rotation. And so, you can begin to see, we're still way too early to be so focused on any one name because nothing's going to get done until the deadline. And frankly, like I mentioned before, the Magic have only got 100, they've had 11 games, 117 minutes with their starting lineup. They don't really know what they have yet. We need to see this group healthy. We need to see this group on the floor before you make tweaks and changes to the lineup and to the rotation. And that's kind of what we're waiting for. And so the next 6 weeks, and look, this week's going to be a wash. So the next after this week, the 5 weeks after this week, we need to see what this Magic team can be. And we need to see this Magic team come together and show us what comes next. There are targets out there. There are players out there to grab. But right now, we just don't know very much. And until we learn a little bit more, we're going to have to wait and see what this team needs to target at the deadline. Big part of that is the Magic have just had to play next man up so much. We're going to talk a little bit about the next man up mentality and how the Magic are sticking with it. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility as the NFL season begins to close. There's plenty of action going on the field. There's plenty of action going on the court as well as the Magic gets set to play the Golden State Warriors on Monday. A big game for both teams, both still trying to find their way. The Warriors favored by 5 points. Despite all the struggles Golden State's had this season, the injured Magic are 5-point underdogs heading into Chase Center. It's been a while since the Magic swept the Warriors, so we'll see if the Magic can get the job done. I believe this would be their second ever win at Chase Center if they win there. So Magic going through some buildings that are house of horrors on this road trip. Denver's not been kind. Delta Center's not been kind. Chase Center's not been kind. Moda Center's been real rough for the Magic for several years. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL and NBA live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Before we get to the trade deadline, as we enter our final segment of the show, before we get to the trade deadline, the Magic got to get through their season. Like the Magic got to play their games. They got to be who they're going to be. And that's obviously been tough with all the injuries the Magic have had. Again, injuries aren't an excuse. No one's going to use that as an excuse. We know how talented this team can be. We know how well they can play. They have shown us plenty to say, why don't you play like that all the time? Why don't you play this way more often? We can see that this team can do it. Again, the margin for error is smaller when you're hurt. There are a lot of times Saturday's game where I was like, man, they could really use Franz Wagner here. Just Franz just relieves pressure on Paolo Banchero, and Paolo again is still working his way back. He's better. He's getting better. He's been better every game he's played, but it's still clear he's still getting his legs under him. And look, the Magic aren't beating the Warriors if Paolo doesn't play well. If Paolo plays like he did in the fourth quarter, the Magic are going to lose. If Paolo plays the way that he played in the first half against Denver, they're going to lose. If he plays like he played the first 3 quarters on Saturday, the Magic have a shot. Magic have a chance. They're going to need Desmond Bane to play well. The next man up mentality, as Jamal Mosley has often put it, it's not about players doing more. And I think that is the really important mindset. And why this team, when this team is successful, it's not because players are doing more. It's not because Anthony Black is trying to be Franz Wagner. It's not because a guy is trying to say, like, oh, Franz is out, I need to do what Franz does. No. As Jamal Mosley always puts it, next man up means do your role, do what you're good at, but better. Because the margin for error is smaller. It's good to have a Franz Wagner who is so versatile and can fit anywhere. It's good to have a Jalen Suggs who is such a dogged defender and a great catch and shoot three-point shooter. You're not replacing that. But you're on the roster for a reason. And your job is to do your job, but do it better because you'll be doing it more. You'll be leaned on to do more, to do what you do more. That's the important distinction. And that's what this team has started to do. Just look at Wendell Carter. Wendell Carter is a great example of this. Wendell Carter had his best game of the season Thursday against the Denver Nuggets. Just his absolutely best game of the season. 26 points, 11 for 15 shooting, 4 for 6 from 3. Game the Magic lost by 12 points, had a 28-point swing. Carter finished with a +7. Jokic got his triple-double, but was also forced into 6 turnovers. Now, that wasn't all Carter, and he still got 30 points and did all the Jokic things. But Carter put up a good fight. Now, 2 early fouls put him on his back foot a little bit, but in the second half, as the Magic were trying to stay in that game and the Magic made a little push to get closer to that game, Carter was a big reason why the Magic stayed in it. And Carter had a decent game, had a decent showing on Saturday against the Jazz. Not as good, obviously. Certainly, and rebounding was an issue. I don't think that was all on Dell, but rebounding was a huge issue throughout the game. Carter on Saturday finished with 14 points. He's had 4 straight games of at least 14 points, all in double figures. 14 points, shot 1 for 3 from 3, 6 for 9 from the floor, had 9 rebounds. The Magic will take that. Added 4 assists as well. The Magic will take that. And while he fouled a little bit, got caught on guards a little bit too much, and I think the Magic had a poor switching scheme in that game and relied on Wendell's perimeter defense a little too much, that put them in compromising positions in the paint. Wendell Carter has become one of the more reliable players on this team. And it's not because he's suddenly demanding the ball in the post or trying to take guys off the dribble. It's because he's just out there setting a hard screen, rolling to an open space, and being ready when the ball swings to him. And ultimately, that's all the Magic want from Wendell Carter. Because remember, the Magic got 4 other guys at their starting lineup who need the ball in their hands. Wendell is there as a safety valve. And even with all these players out, that hasn't changed. What's changed is perhaps defense trying to constrict the stars, the Palos, the Baines, the ABs. And that's left Carter open. Left him more open. And when he gets the ball, he doesn't hesitate. When he gets the ball, he makes his move. He takes his shot. He doesn't blink. And right now, generally, he is delivering. There's still some ups and downs with Wendell Carter. I'm not going to pretend otherwise, but he is generally delivering. And that's the next man up mentality. The ball swings to him. He is asked to do the thing. He does the thing. And that's what every player on the Magic has to do right now. That's what every player on the Magic is being charged with right now. When the ball comes to them, do your thing. And if they do that, and they do it well, and do it with confidence, and do it with aggression, the Magic will have a chance. Will they win all these games? I don't know. The Magic need to get healthy. Talent lowers the margin for error. The margin for error is just very, very fine right now. And Saturday is a great example of this. Magic should have won that game by 20. Utah outworked them though, and worked their way back into the game. And Orlando didn't have what they needed to lean back on. You know, you could play well, miss shots, and that's more likely when you're hurt, like the Magic are hurt. So it's just about being themselves, but being better and doing it more. Not doing different, doing what they do more. That's the next man up mentality. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at @PhilipRR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Hamlin, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all the phone based download podcast to your podcast-enabled listening device. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. As always, thank you for your support. If you need a last-minute holiday gift or someone keeps asking what you want, make it easy. Ask for the Everydayer Club. Ad-free episodes of the show, exclusive Discord server access, and more. Subscriptions can be gifted through lockedonmagic.supercast.com. That's lockedonmagic.supercast.com. For those of you on video, we're going to send you to the first ever 24/7 national NBA YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen NBA game night on Locked On NBA for a complete recap of the previous night in the NBA. We will be back tomorrow, very, very late or very, very early, depending on when you listen. We'll be back tomorrow to recap the Magic's game against the Golden State Warriors. So if you're staying up, yes, that episode will be up around 2, we'll be up around like 2:30, probably 3. I didn't get the Jazz episode up till 3 on Saturday. It'll probably be up around 3 in the morning Eastern time, but it'll be there. It'll be there when you wake up, at the very, very least. We will talk all about the Magic's game against the Golden State Warriors as the Magic continue this West Coast trip. But until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.